Good evening. I'm Lori Baker-Eveleth, and I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's presentation on media misinformation and digital platforms. The League of Women Voters is pleased to have Dr. Porismita Borah as our speaker. And this presentation is being recorded and will be available on the League of Women Voters website, lwepullman.org, in a few days. So in keeping with
Tomorrow.
a few days. We got a few days. In keeping with the League of Women Voters process, after Dr. Borah is done speaking, she will answer questions, and you should have a card on your chair. We ask that you write down questions that you have, and then hold up your card, we'll gather them, and then we will compile them on topic, and that way we kind of reduce redundancy. Make sure to write clearly and succinctly so we can read them, and this will allow us to get through as many questions as possible. So the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage the informed and active participation of citizens in government. The League acts in support of or in opposition to selected governmental issues, which its members have studied. It does not support or oppose candidates, factions, or political parties. So that's our nonpartisan statement. So we do ask that you turn off or silence your cell phones and refrain from clapping or booing or disruptive behavior. And we'll get on to our speaker. So I would like to introduce Dr. Borah. She is a professor at WSU in the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication and is part of the Media and Health Promotion Research Center. Her research is very timely for all of us in looking at message effects in these digital environments that we're involved in, and how and why false information is spread, and why people believe it, and what we can do about it. So, Dr. Borah, thank you. I have two tools in my hand now. I need to. I'm going to give up on this one. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today, and I'm excited to speak to you. Okay, yeah, hold it closer. Is that good? Okay. All right. Yeah, excited to come and speak to you about what I study, and a little bit of, I'll talk about misinformation as, on digital platforms, and why, how it spreads and why it is bad for us, and if we can do something about it, if at all we can do something about it. Yeah, so I have the presentation overview here. So I'll also speak about consequences of misinformation and why people tend to believe in misinformation. And so, yeah. Before I start, I wanted to quickly differentiate between misinformation and disinformation, which both of the words you might have heard, and many of you might know the difference, but I just wanted to start with that. Misinformation is usually false information that is shared without the person's knowledge that it is false. So you might be sharing rumors without knowing that it is false. You think that it is true, so you're doing that, or you're sharing it, or talking to somebody, telling someone about it. Disinformation is something that is done purposefully. So that is similar to propaganda and things like that. So something that you know that it is false, and yet you spread that. So, all right. And so I'm going to give you an example, show an example from a recent project of showing sort of how misinformation spreads. And this is from Twitter. And so here, what you see here is a map of people. Here, the little dots are people, and how the red one is seven of them misinformation tweeters. So those were the main people who were at first tweeted, and then you see the yellow 5 misinformation retweeters, so they were resharing it. And then there are the others who were following these people who also got exposed to that misinformation. So it's basically shows you how people can get exposed to misinformation, even if you don't share yourself. And then it'll go on to show you, let's see, all right, maybe at this point I need the, all right, so I'm actually going to go here. So now after that, that was the first one where it shows the misinformation spreaders, and then you can see the number there, red 63, so it increased because more people saw it, more people shared it, more people got exposed to it, and so finally we have 13,000 people here who've got exposed to that piece of misinformation. And then if we move on, we see more people increasing, and this is something you probably have seen. That's how things go viral, or information that gets spread, whether it's good information or false information. And then we look at here, we are almost at 50,000 people who are now seeing that information. And so these maps or these sort of figures are coming out of Twitter from a project that we had done with computer scientists and other people who've helped us do this. So this kind of gives you an idea of why it is so important for us to be aware of how information spreads and how quickly information spreads. And something I always talk about when I show these kind of maps and figures to show the spread of misinformation is that it's not that misinformation never existed before social media, right? Before we are able to do this so fast. We always had rumors and false information and propaganda and things like that since the time, but it has become really easy now, as you can see. And this is data for about a few hours that can go really fast. And yeah, so I think we most of us here would know that it is false. Getting exposed to false information, whether it is misinformation or disinformation, is not a good thing. So what does research tell us about why it is so bad? And so, and this is more academic than it should be, but I'll just quickly give a sort of a summary of what we're talking about here. It can impact people's final decisions in how we vote and decisions in elections. It can erode public trust in governmental organizations. It intensifies ideological polarization. I think we've seen all of that. Decreased trust in government, distrust in media organizations, in organizations of health organizations or any authoritative organizations for that matter. That can happen, and which is basically decreased trust in experts, right? So any kind of institutions of such. Neglect preventive health measures, and we've seen that as well with a lot of these kind of rumors spreading. We've also seen a lot of vaccination-related misinformation that became very prominent during COVID and other sort of vaccine-related information as well, not just politics, but also public health and things like that. Long-term impact. Yes, these kind of false information can have long-term impact because one of the things is that once misinformation takes hold, in the sense that sounds really dramatic, but once people are exposed to misinformation, and particularly if they believe in that information, if you don't believe in that information, you saw something and you realize it's not true and you let it go, perhaps all of those consequences are not, might not be true for you. But if you do believe in that information that is not true, it is very, very difficult to get that out of your system. In some sense, right? Because you trust that information and then it becomes difficult to get it. And so that can have a long-term impact on not just so we've done a lot of research where we've seen these connections between different types of misinformation pieces, right? So there could be something that you saw, there was misinformation about a topic that is related to the elections, let's say. And that is connected to something in health, and that is connected to something about another, so these connections usually have major long-term effects on people, and we've seen that in our studies. All right, so this is coming from social psychology research, and as you can see, some of these are from very older studies, and which means misinformation has been studied for a long time, and that is what I was talking about when I said it's not just social media. Social media, of course, makes it very easy for us to for it to spread, but then misinformation has been there for a long period of time, and once people are exposed to these kind of misleading information, sometimes they may forget original information, which means they may forget the truth, they forget the information that was true or which was given by institutions that are to be trusted, and yet you trust something that you've seen on social media or something that you've heard from someone which is not true. That kind of is explained by this sort of, again, this is more academic than it should be, but it talks about activation-based model of memory, which means when you're exposed to misleading information, it can activate certain memories in your brain, which can resonate to some certain things that you are aligned towards, or that you believe in, or it's been spread by people who you trust, or whatever that might be. That specific information might resonate with you, and which might make you forget the factual sort of details, and that makes it, again, very, very easy to fall for misinformation. Repeated exposure, that's a big one. So if you continue to see again and again and again, you see it once, you forget about it, that's different than when you continue to see something which comes to you, and that's what algorithms do on social media, right? So you see one thing and something related to that will be shown to you, and then you keep reading that, or you keep seeing these videos or whatnot. And then it makes it harder for people to debunk that misinformation, because you've seen it so many times, it has been given to you repeatedly, then it becomes easier again to believe in that. So one of the reasons that there's a lot of research on is called motivated reasoning, which means when we often, as you might be aware, when we process information, we read something or on social media or in our newspapers or whatever it might be. We read something, when we process that information, and we either believe it or we don't believe it, we trust it, or we say, well, that is true, that has happened, or we may say, well, that's just opposition's view, or that's a political matter, or that's actually not true, or whatever that might be. But in our minds, usually, a lot of times when we are processing information that is related to politics, particularly, we tend to use something called motivated reasoning, which means we are motivated to reason about that information in a certain way. And this certain way is what is congruent with us, with what we believe in, right? So we may seek information that is congruent with our views, as well as we might dismiss information that is not congruent with our views. So if I trust somebody, or I believe in a certain, whatever that might be, in a social issue or a political issue or economic issue or whatever that might be, I believe in that, or that is what my ideology, ideologically it's congruent with me, then I tend to trust that information, even if it is not true, because that's how our brain works, and that is actually very, very easy for us to fall. And it's not necessarily that we are not aware of something, or we are not educated, or we are, all of those and things. It's not because of that. It's because that's how our brain works. That's because it's easy for us, right? So something I believe in, and I see something out there, and yeah, that's very easy for me to believe, because I think that, well, that is true, because that's how, so that sort of that motivated reasoning part of this, how we process information makes it very easy for us to fall for information that might not be true. And that is why a lot of times you would hear about people saying, well, how do people even believe in that? I mean, that is clearly not true, right? That is clearly not true, especially on the other side, or whatever spectrum we are, whatever political inclinations we have, or ideological inclinations, or social beliefs, or whatever personal beliefs we have. It's always, clearly, how is it that people don't know that? That's because of, a lot of it is because of motivated reasoning, because that's how we process information, and that makes it very difficult for us sort of not to fall for information. So something like that. How do you even know that a story is true? Because when I agree with it, I tend to think that it is true, and I am pretty sure it has happened to almost all. At least once in our lifetimes, it has happened to us. I mean, it is, and especially when it is a really topic that is hot, and you're waiting for some results, or you're waiting for something to happen, and and it's, if the story is telling you something that is congruent with your views, it's very easy to say, well, see, I told you that's what it's supposed to be like. That, so it's very easy to do that, and so we easily fall for misinformation, something like that, and it makes it. So that's why I always say that it's really easy, and social media makes it primarily easy for that to happen, because not just because of people who are sharing all of this information, which is not true, or disinformation, which is being shared because of other conspiracies or political reasons or whatever it might be, but also because of algorithms, right? So once you click on something, let's say on Facebook, you go and read something, the next time there'll be 3 stories about that same topic, because the algorithms are following you and knows what you like, or, well, the moment you wait for a few seconds, the algorithm thinks that that's what you want to read, and it can be pretty irritating. I'm sure all of you have kind of experienced that, and so yeah, so it's kind of, when you think about it, it is actually very easy to fall for misinformation. All right, so I've spoken about technology, a little bit about social media and whatnot, but I do want to talk a little bit later about the double-edged sword. But one of the big things now that we have been talking about is AI. I'm sure all of you have heard of AI and how it could change things for us. And I think it's already changing. It's a lot has been changed already. If you just go on Google and search for something, whatever it might be, whatever topic, the first thing that comes is nowadays is from AI generated, right? So AI crawls the web, finds the information, and gives you a summary of that information. Seems like a great idea. It's doing a lot of work for us. But then, but then it can make mistakes. It depends on where that source is, and AI can be quite complicated, because not only for giving us false information, but also because it makes it very easy to create information that is not true. Fake images, fake videos which is very, very difficult to distinguish from things that are accurate. And it's becoming more and more difficult to distinguish. It's kind of crazy, like a year ago, how AI used to be and how ChatGPT used to work and how much advanced it is now in a year. And I cannot imagine in 10 years what we're going to be seeing from AI. It is really scary. And AI makes it easy to create all of these things, and social media makes it easy to spread that information. And so, it's just that cycle where it's really difficult when you think about it to come out of that. And then we live in our own sort of ecosystems, right? We tend to live in our ecosystems which are comfortable for us. So whether it is whether it is political beliefs or any kind of ideology or social, whatever beliefs they are, we like to be in general, we like to be with people who are like us and think like us and talk like us, and whatever that might be. And so social media knows that, right? All of these algorithms knows that. And so put all of that together, yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. That's all I can say. It is really scary out there. I don't want to make it sound like a very dramatic, but it is really scary for information if you're not aware of what it can be. So I'm going to show a few pictures, and I'm going to ask real or not, and I want to know if this is. So this is a picture of, as you can see, of course, Paris, and there's some garbage there. And do you think this is true or not?
No.
Yes, true. I heard no as well as yes. It is not true. This is AI. What about this one? What about this one? It's a picture from one of our great national parks. But I mean, is it true or not? Is Death Valley? Is it true or not?
True.
It is true, actually. It is true. Even though it's a picture, it's a perfect picture of and I'm forgetting what point it is, but it is from the Death Valley, and it is a true picture. How about this? True?
That was in the news.
No, it is not true. And it's really funny. The person who made this, and apparently he gave an interview later on, he's like, I just thought it would be funny for the Pope to wear this huge jacket and puffed jacket. And it went viral, of course, because you can never know if it is true or not. It's just, it's really difficult to do. He could have been wearing and be out. I don't know if you've seen this, but this is the Pentagon and fire. Is this true or not? No, good. No, it is not true. This was in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. I thought I had it in my notes, but this was an AI-generated image that was shared on social media, and it created havoc. So this is what happened to the stock markets that day, because it was thought to be true. And once, like I showed you those pictures of how things get shared on social media. If that happens to information like that, because it's hard to believe it is true or not. And before it is confirmed with the Pentagon, or before it is confirmed with news agencies or people you can trust, for that matter, it would usually already create some kind of problems or some kind of drama. And so that was one of them. These are fake, as you can already see, but I don't know if any of you remember, but there was a fake audio of Biden during the 2024 telling people in, I'm forgetting the name, the state, but telling them not to vote, because, which is, I mean, telling them that don't go out to vote, which is quite unusual for a politician to say that don't go out and vote. And then there was this of Trump getting arrested, which was also not true. And that also created a lot of chaos once it first came out. And this was, I think was from 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so all of this, I mean, it looks real, right? I mean, it looks real. That's the problem. And it's hard to, because what we often used to think before AI and before it became so easy to create things like this, was that a picture speaks volumes, or a picture tells the truth, or pictures or videos always can never lie. A picture can never lie. None of that is true anymore, as you can see, right? It's not. I mean, videos are being made, which because you can use anybody's imitate anybody's voice. That's how the Biden video was made. So it's really quite something to be able to do that. I talked about the double-edged sword, and I'll talk a little bit about it. Even though I know I've been talking against social media and AI, but at the same time, a lot of my research also looks at how we can use these tools to mitigate some of this, to help us to spread accurate information. So the same social media that is used to spread misinformation can also be used to give accurate information, and we get accurate information from that source. We can do fact checking through social media. It's very easily done. AI is used for posting accurate information a lot these days and correcting misinformation, and it's even and we've tested AI actually for misinformation correction, and it actually works really well. So the same sort of tools that can be used, and that's true of other things too. I'm sure there are other examples where something that can be used for which can be what do you call it, problematic or has bad impact, can also be used for something good. All right, so yeah, my last part is where I'm going to talk about what we can do, if at all we can do something. So I'm going to give you some examples of what we've seen. One of the big questions that I get asked a lot of times is that, do corrections work? So do fact checking work? Right? So I know we've talked about all of the sort of the consequences of misinformation and things that can go wrong. But if we correct people, or not just social correction, but organizations or social media, sort of big tech, even if they use fact checking, so does it work? And so the answer really is, it depends. It could work sometimes. And among the many sort of solutions, oops, maybe I'm not supposed to go too close, but among the many solutions that are supposed to help us with the problem of misinformation, fact checking and correction is one of them that has been shown to work. And there's a lot of research on this. There's like, I cannot even begin to, there's all of this experimental research that we've, not just what we have done, but many others that are doing across the world, and meta-analysis, which means analysis of articles that have been published, of research that shows that fact-checking tend to reduce misperceptions of people. And in general, it is across political issues, across health issues, across social issues. It tends to decrease. Challenges is it is less effective in political issues than others. So across party lines is a complicated one. It is also very contextual. So it depends on what the issue is. There are certain issues that could be, that is possible for fact-checking to help with lowering those misperceptions. But then there are others where it might not be. Some of the core values that people hold, or some of the things that are very, very close to people's, those might not be so easy to change minds with fact-checking, even if the core values are based on inaccurate information. So that is where the struggle actually is, that it is contextual. There are many that are helpful, but then there are others that are not. A lot of times, correction about a singular event is easier than broader misinformation about preferred political party, or things like that. Challenges are there of reaching the people at the right time before people have already been exposed, because as you saw in the beginning, it goes really fast. Anything false or rumors or things that are going viral, those really spread fast. And so now we have bots to spread them as well, not just people. And so it's just it's a continuing problem that we need to deal with. But so I don't know if you've seen this, but this is sort of at the heart of this idea of social correction, right? The people correcting each other, not just organizations, not just big tech or others, but us correcting others, or friends, or relatives, or whatever else. So a lot of my research, that is the core idea of that research, is that people do social corrections, and some people take it very, very seriously. And it's true that people like the internet to be a place where information is trustworthy, right? There are a lot of people that feel that way. So that's what is called as social correction. So each of us correcting. And we have tested, me and my team, oh my God, we have done so many of these studies, experimental studies, where we have tested what kind of strategies that work, what works and what doesn't work. And there are many others, but I just wanted to bring in a few here to talk about. One is civil. So we should not talk with anger. It's like, are you an idiot? You don't understand that? That's not a good starting point. Even if you are angry with the other, even if you're angry with the other side, even if you're angry with whatever their beliefs or whatever it is, civil without being confrontational, empathy goes a long way. We just have new study that we had collected data, and we saw how empathy helps with if you're talking to someone who has who is strong with misperceptions or who believes in information that is not true. But you go and talk to them with this idea that it is, I understand it's not very difficult to fall for misinformation, but why don't you take a look at these links or things like that. So empathize with the person who might believe in misperceptions, and that seemed to work. Again, I would not. Again, like I said in the beginning, the disclaimer is that it is always difficult when it is across party lines and when it is about a particular sort of a political party, because if you are from the opposite party, then it's very difficult to convince the other person or that kind of a thing. Providing facts and links and other material helps. We've seen AI correction, so a lot of our latest work is looking at what people think about AI corrections. If instead of a person correcting, if an AI chatbot is correcting the information, what people think, people actually like that. And it seems like we have tested it across multiple experimental studies, and we have seen that people actually trust AI bot corrections. They think they are neutral. They think they don't belong to a political party, and so they can be trusted. Which is not true, but then that's how people, because bots are after all coming from somewhere. They are not, they're coming from, yes, they're coming from somebody. They could definitely be more efficient than humans, because it just gets done really fast, and you just have to, it works really well than humans actually sitting there and correcting other people, and could get angry and whatnot. So AI correction seems to work. There are a lot of organizations that are using AI for fact checking, as well as information, like giving accurate information as well as fact checking. So that's what I was talking about. Perhaps there is some hope. I'm not sure that AI could help us with that. Other things we can do. Multiple sources. We can cross-check our sources. I think that's one of the biggest ones, that we need to be careful about where information is coming from, whether it is an image, whether it is the information that's coming. We need to check information, multiple information, and we need to check across party lines. This is something I always tell, that it's not, so that we can keep our minds open to the other side and read both sides and make a decision. As adults. We've also seen in our research that people who reflect or think about the information. So a lot of times this false information that goes viral is because people don't think before spreading them. So you just see something, you see the headline, or you see an image, or oh, that image looks really, like before even thinking the image with the fire in the Pentagon, it's like, oh my God, Pentagon is on fire. But then can you just check before you spread? That's so reflecting and thinking about that information that you see or read, you're less likely to be susceptible, as well as you're less likely to be spreading misinformation. So awareness, I would say awareness is a big one, of course, and then you probably heard of media literacy, which is one of the bigger sort of tools that we think can help media literacy from a younger age, and this is something that we have had many sort of research work that we have done, as well as talk to people with, media literacy being introduced at a very younger age for kids to be knowing what media can and cannot do, and how AI can actually play a role in all of these things. And so media literacy at a younger age, I think by the time we are adults, we kind of have a better sense of how media works, but when we're younger kids might not have that. And so that can be, and some of our college students, to some of our class, I mean, I teach a course on misinformation to undergraduate students, and a lot of times I see that they don't come with that much of information about literacy or knowledge about literacy. I know I talked about the images, so I did want to talk a little bit about identifying how we can identify images which are true or not. And this is true of any other information. To take a moment to a pause, critically evaluate. I think all of we are aware of that. Examining the details always help. It's after all, and AI makes a lot of mistakes. At least now what at the time that the AI we have, they're still making a lot of mistakes. But that won't be true in a few years, though. In a few years, they're going to get better at doing all this false bad things. So searching for any inconsistencies, a hand is missing or a finger is missing, or things like that. Like sometimes it's very easy to spot those things, and you realize that, oh, what happened to Pope's hand because it's not there. So things like that, and then always go back to the original source, right? That's true not just of the image, but that's true of any information that we read. Going back to the original source is original source and looking at multiple sources is really, really important for us to see if it is true or it's not. Organizations and big tech definitely can play a big role in this, but I think more and more, I think there's so much challenges, like with big tech being not doing fact checking anymore. And there was I think it was right after 2016 elections here in the US that Facebook had done a whole lot of tried to clean up and tried to get rid of all of these some of these groups and have sort of that fact checking of if you're reading something which is not true, it would give you something right behind it, below it, saying that when read this which is true, this doesn't look like it is true. Those kind of things are not being done anymore, and so that sort of has become another sort of issue with some of the organizations. But I think social media companies and other organizations need to. That's just an opinion, but they need to really take responsibility for some of this. After all, it's their platforms where this information is being spread. So I think if that happens, maybe there'll be some sort of solution, maybe. So it is a deep-seated problem, as we all know. It is a pretty big problem, and any one single strategy is not adequate. Perhaps if different things come together, maybe there is some hope, but it's also something that something to keep in mind, that there'll never be a time where misinformation will never be there. It will always be there. We have to navigate ourselves through that because it will always be there. It's used for particularly with politics. It will always be there. It's become so easy. Or even otherwise, I mean, it's become so easy to say that if someone's saying something against you, it's very easy to say that's not true. That's just false, and you don't take responsibility for things, and that has become part of where we live now. And so it might be not so easy to really eradicate it, but I think for our own sort of keeping ourselves informed with information that is accurate, I think is one of the more important ones. I believe that's.
One question.
Happy to take questions.
Okay, so I'm just going to let him ask the question.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah.
So why cannot the fact checking not be applied to a post before it is distributed? So that it cannot spread so fast.
Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had that. I wish I could do that. That is what you're asking is a great question. That is called inoculation. That's called it's given before, even before. So that's some of it was done before by Facebook and Twitter, but this was a while ago. They don't do it anymore. So unfortunately, they got away with it. They went into Congress and they said they can't do it, as you know. And so they don't do the. I mean that's the best way actually, because then people are not getting exposed, right? So you check the information because before it goes viral or before it goes images or what else. But then what Facebook sort of in the beginning, what they were trying to do that, and then they said that it is impossible because of the amount, because of the volume, because of the bots that are spreading misinformation all of the time. And so it's almost impossible to control that. So
Also, alternate way to do it would be to delay every posting by 2 hours, 6 hours, and that would slow the exponential growth of the response.
Right. So that's where, when I had that slide about talking about, that big tech and organizations need to do things, because for us, that's not possible. Both of those questions are great questions, but both of those solutions are in the hands of the platforms themselves, or the organizations themselves, or big tech, or or whichever. But they're not going to do that. That's where the problem is. Yeah. Sure. Yeah, of course. Does research demonstrate a correlation between educational level and susceptibility to misinformation? Are more educated people less likely to believe misinformation? That's a great question. That's a great question. In general, yes, there is a correlation if you're educated in general, but then not always. Not always because of political reasons. Yeah, that's why I was talking about that. Across political parties become the most problematic thing, because you are, even if you're educated, you tend to trust the power that is, whoever you trust, or whichever party you belong to, you tend to trust that. And so once you trust, even if they're giving wrong information, then it's very easy to believe in that. That's exactly what is that idea of going back to that idea of motivated reasoning. And motivated reasoning can happen. I'm not sure who this question came from, but motivated reasoning is not necessarily something that educated people are not going to do. So that's where the problem lies. But in general, yes, in general, the more educated you are, you will have less susceptibility to fall for misinformation. Yeah.
These two questions are both on AI.
Okay. Yeah. Can you challenge AI if the information posted is true? Not true? I guess there's a nod there. Yeah, I think so. There should be a nod, I think. Can you challenge AI if the information posted is not true? You could, but the problem with AI is that it crawls the web to get the information, right? So if it's crawling, if it's going to websites which has only false information about a particular whatever that information is, and it depends on the bot, it depends on the chat bot you're using. If it is a politically motivated, if it's coming from a political party, then that bot is going to get information only from that information which is not true or whatever. So yeah, it is possible to challenge them. I think ChatGPT does very well actually. If you try ChatGPT and ChatGPT comes back with answers that seem really human. It's quite crazy. And and then if you ask them inappropriate questions, they actually say that I cannot answer that. That is not supposed to be answered by me, or things like that. And I want to. They also say that you have to keep your tone civil and things like that. So ChatGPT they're becoming really smart. It's kind of crazy. Besides AI, to check where can you fact check? Yeah. There are lots of fact-checking websites, Snopes.com and things like that, and I can even share a list if that's of interest to the group. I can share a list with in the email. But there are lots of fact-checking websites. So if you go to fact-checking websites, that's the first thing I actually do, because it's difficult to trust news as much as we used to do before. And so because sometimes false information, if it's spreading, news organizations can also fall for that false information because they're trying to get their ratings up or whatnot. But if you go to, a lot of times you'll go to fact-checking websites and they will do an analysis. It doesn't happen immediately, but they usually would do an analysis of showing you what is not true and where to go for the information, and so on and so forth. So those are really great spots to go find information that's not true. I mean, to check information that is not true. Sorry.
So, along the same line, what fact-checking sources
are best? Yeah, that's the same. How do we determine if information has been fact-checked? Yeah, I think the fact-checking websites are really good. Also, I would say, I mean, there's of course news organizations that fact checks as well. I mean, they do have almost all of the news organizations will have their bunch of people who do fact checking, and so that can be useful as well. With news, it is kind of, it depends. It's no longer, because I'm sure all of you are aware, the news landscape is very different from how it was before, like when legacy news organizations, only 3 television channels and a couple of newspapers. Is no longer the case. It's a very, very different landscape right now. And so I think twice about when I say that, well, go to the news sources and check, because you can. I do tell my students to do that. But then at the same time, it's better if you check a couple more. Like you cannot check only one and be sure that that is true. That's kind of where sort of looking at multiple is really, really useful. Yeah. Oh, that is a good question. Or to control AI. I don't know. Right now, all the countries are all very happy with AI. They want more and more AI. I mean, AI is being used in governance, in all kinds of things, right? This idea that AI makes work, makes things easier, it does. A lot of things are done that becomes easy for us. But I don't know if they've been able to, any country able to falsify. I don't think so. I mean, I could be. I don't think there's any country that has particularly said, well, we are able to control misinformation online, because a lot of these platforms are global. There are countries like China where, for instance, Facebook is not available, or Google, this kind of things are not available. That doesn't mean they don't have their own, where information is locally spread. There are those things too. When you talk about countries, I mean, in different languages, there are all these platforms in different languages, chat, whatever, all these apps where information, like WhatsApp or something. WhatsApp is a very common one. I don't know if you use that, but there's so much misinformation there, because there are groups of people where you share, and then everybody in the group sees that and thinks it is true, or yeah. But any kind of, right, whether it is any country, any platform, whether it is a message app like WhatsApp, or it's a social media like platform like Facebook and Twitter, whatever the platform might be, I think the main thing is to be aware that information that you get might not be true. I think that's the first thing to think about, that you're seeing this, but it might not be true. It's something that is making you feel good that, oh, this is, like I said in the beginning, that, we get really happy about information that is congruent with us and we tend to believe that. But we should always check. We should always check before, and particularly sometimes when it's too good to be true, it might not be true. So always cross-checking, right? Always cross-checking, I think is one of the things. But yeah, I wish I had an answer for this. If any country has been able to control AI, I don't know. I don't think so. I think countries are getting very trigger happy about AI. I think a lot of organizations, and I mean, it's used regularly in everything, right? So yeah. Okay. What do you tell students to do to identify this and misinformation? Yeah, I tell them exactly what I was showing you about, like, go to different sources, talk to different people, don't stay only in your groups. And I tell them even to talk to faculty members or, adults, or, yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to fact-checking sources and websites and multiple sources. I think multiple sources is where the big thing is, and be literate about media literacy, as I was talking about. Be literate about how media is created, how AI can, show them examples of these things that I was showing you, the images that AI can, can create, and videos that are created by AI that looks absolutely real, but then they're not, as we saw those examples. So yeah, I tell them the same thing. As I was saying, I wish that students would come with little more, more media literate from their schools, which would be helpful for them. And I think that's where I think in the future that would be helpful for people to be more aware of that. Yeah, that was the last.
Is it okay to raise our hand?
Sure.
I like your idea of teaching media literacy at a young age. How young do you think that should be started, and in what kind of curriculum?
Yeah, I mean, middle school, high school. I think there are media literacy courses now too, but I don't know how much that is taught. I'm not aware of the curriculum, but I think at that level, showing examples of, or telling them how media is created, telling them how these kind of images can be created, things that they see, and also kids are now exposed to some of this. That's the most horrible. Sorry, that's the most horrible thing, that they can get exposed to things like this, and so. So being aware that can be created, and everything that you see is not true. I think that's the first thing to realize, that what we see or what we hear is not true. Every time like my mom will say something about some news, and my first thing is that, okay, let me check if this is true or not, because you're like, again, like I said, it's really hard to believe some of these things, and seems so convincing, but they're not. And so from a young age, if they're aware of that unfortunate truth of what's coming in adult life, if they're aware of that, I think they'll be more prepared than coming into adult life and thinking, well, whatever you see is actually, like in the media, particularly in the media, that is true. So yeah.
I have another question. Have you or any of your colleagues or your students done any research on scams and that kind of misinformation?
Scams, I have not, at least not that I'm aware of, but I think scams could be, I mean, it's a really interesting topic to do research, but business school might do some of that. I'm not aware of, but I'm sure there's research that is done, and who's vulnerable to scams and things like that, or what can you do to avoid scams? I mean, it's similar to, like, people, again, if it is too good to be true, it's probably not true. If you're getting a call about this credit card that's going to give you a whole lot of money, I mean, it's probably not true. And so, things like that. So business school might have some scam. I have not. I don't know, but I think it will be, some of it will be similar, I think. Yeah.
We have one more from the Zoom.
Yeah, sure, yeah. How do I, right
Sorry.
here? Okay.
What advice would you give to a parent who wanted to prepare their children to thrive in a world of misinformation?
That's sad. Makes me sad that people have to think of all of that these days, right? Yeah, I think it'll be the same thing about preparing them to be aware of what can happen, preparing them to critical thinking. I forgot to use. I mean, I was forgetting to tell that even when that question about students came, I always tell them to critically think about that information. So I was talking about reflection, right? So reflective judgment is one of those really important ones where the information that you get, if you think about it, a lot of times we are already at a point where we won't be susceptible. But if we don't think and we are just reading headlines and sharing, that's a big problem. And we don't think, even if we are reading only headlines, we should still think about those headlines. I think that's really important. Just take a moment and take a little pause and kind of, yeah, that'll be my, I mean, that'll be the advice for parents to make their kids aware of that and get into that habit of cross-checking or habit of thinking or reflecting and that kind of a thing. So I think that could be a useful way to, yeah, start. Yes.
I just have one comment that I feel like we're making it sound like children are naive and the most susceptible to misinformation. In my experience, the people that hold beliefs that I know to be wrong are right. Is there, in your work, do you know anything about age and what are your erroneous beliefs?
Yes, that's a great question. Actually, I didn't get into that all of that. We've done surveys where older people are more susceptible. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But then we also, the problem with younger kids is that we don't do survey. It's not possible to survey young kids. You know, so you have to take. It's a whole difficult situation of taking permission and asking questions and with kids. But I think with kids, why I usually bring up kids about these examples is because they're more, I think they trust more of like images and things like that, and that's where they could be more susceptible. But you're absolutely right. Older people are more, they're more set in their political ideology or social beliefs or any other core beliefs and moral values and things like that. You've already reached the stage where you don't want to change. And so, you know, so there's nothing that can change. So age, yes, age is a big factor in that. Yeah, older people are more susceptible to misperceptions, misinformation. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your presentation.